Alright, hello! Welcome to another video of reteaching myself filmmaking. I apologize from the very beginning if I have a list at any point. It's because I have a retainer in right now. But this video today, instead of being about producers, I'm continuing on the path of sort of definitions of different roles in filmmaking. And so today is the director. What is a director? Or what is a film director? And it is exactly what the name indicates. They are the director, they direct, they make the decisions that creatively drive the film. And then the official Merriam-Webster definition of a director is a person who supervises the production of a show, as for stage or screen, usually with responsibilities for action, lighting, music, and rehearsals. And then the American Film Institute defines directing as film directing is focused on developing and implementing the overall creative vision of a script, as well as working with actors on crafting performances. So, getting into what does a director do? A director leads a film creatively. Department heads usually answer to the director because the director is guiding the creative aspects of the film in order to support the entire narrative. I would say a good example of this is keeping tones consistent across a film. Like, I love comparing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Both films are adapting the same story, but they have drastically different creative visions, and that impacts the tone of the film. Willy Wonka, while being unsettling in some of its own ways, is generally a light-hearted film. I mean, it's a musical. It's pretty light-hearted. But then you have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that has a certain coldness, I guess you could say, to it that the 1971 adaptation does not have, and that's because the tones are just so different. But the director makes the decisions that decide the tone, and they're meant to keep it consistent across all of the departments. They're essentially taking the script and adapting it in their own way. That's why you can take the same base story and end up with two drastically different products. For those of you who have never read a film script, they're very straightforward. What you're seeing and hearing, which can be dialogue, sometimes it's a specific sound that you hear off screen or something like that, but typically it's only what you're seeing and hearing is what's included in the script, and that's it. There are no thoughts, no feelings, anything like that. And because of that, a script can be interpreted in different ways by different people. Now, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory are not necessarily a perfect example of that. It's two different adaptations with two different scripts of the same book, but the principle is still there. If you handed two different directors the same script, you could end up with two very different products. Think of how two different actors, when they're auditioning for the same role, can perform it in such different ways. Really, it comes down to who is serving the narrative better. They're pulling from the same blueprint, but interpreting it in different ways. The director, or I guess a good director, has their hands sort of in everything. Everything has a touch of their ideas to influence it towards one cohesive idea. That includes wardrobe, set dressing, the camera, including the lens, the angle that a shot is being shot from, although for that they would work with the cinematographer, the actors' performances, the score, everything. Then the director also directs the actors. They interact with the cast and direct them through the scenes. Of course, actors can make their own choices, but sometimes the choice that they make isn't going to be the right one or the best one, I guess you could say. One of my favorite examples of a director giving a note to somebody is something that Gary Oldman says that Christopher Nolan did, I believe on one of the Batman films, where Nolan told him there's more at stake. It's a very simple note. It's a very short note, but it's an important one. And I have no doubt that whatever Gary Oldman was doing in the scene was great because he's an amazing actor. But at the end of the day, it's good that you have a director who can come in and see a good performance, maybe even a great performance, and pull even more out of it and get it to the very best place that it can be, or at least try to push it to the best place that it can be with their own direction and understanding of where they need the narrative to go. They need to direct the actors in the best way to best serve the story and the film. And something I think a lot of people don't realize is that films are not shot chronologically, and because of that, it can be really easy to lose track of where you are in the story. And something a director will do is they will go to the actor and they will be like, okay, this is where we are, this is how you're feeling, blah 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 blah. They keep things on track. They know the scene they're shooting, they know where the characters are, and they're able to guide people through it to bring it all together. And then of course, a director is involved in the pre-production process of a film, which I probably should have talked about earlier, that they're involved in casting, breaking down the script, sometimes changing the script, making the shot list, storyboards, working with the heads of different departments, and just generally having their hands in everything. At the end of the day, the director is the director. They are in charge, and so things have to go through them. There's also development, which comes before pre-production, but a director's involvement in that can change just depending on the film. In many cases, a director isn't very involved in development and they'll come in during pre-production. That's because development is primarily a producer and writer area, but of course if a director is a producer or the writer of the film, then they will be heavily involved in development. That isn't to say that they couldn't or wouldn't be involved in development if they weren't a producer or writer, but they wouldn't be nearly as involved as they would be in every other stage. Then of course there's production, which is shooting, directing the crew and cast. I don't really know if I need to go further into that. I mean, there are day-to-day things. This is general video. We don't need to go that deep right now. Moving on to post-production. Post-production is like the other stages. The director guides the narrative. They'll sit with the editor and give notes. They'll also work with the editor for the oh-so-coveted director's cut, if there is one. Once picture lock occurs, which, note here, picture lock is once you're finished editing all of the videos, because you do separate the editing of those things. You edit the visual aspects first, and then you move on to audio from there. So once picture lock occurs, they move on to sound, which would be the same as editing in terms of director involvement, giving notes and feedback, sitting in while the editors and sound designers do their amazing jobs. The score comes in around this time too. The composer would have already been working on the score, and the director would be giving them feedback and making choices over a period of time throughout the pre-production, and well, depending on how long it takes to create it, it could, I guess, span the entirety of the production process, but I would say most of the time it starts in pre-production, but you know. And then we have some examples of some directors with strong creative vision, which also I would like to note. Having strong creative vision does not mean that you just have an aesthetic that you stick to all the time. Like Wes Anderson or Wong Kar-wai, they are directors with strong creative visions. But then you also have someone like Ben Stiller, who made Tropic Thunder and Severance. He's a great director. He has strong creative vision, but he does not have this one specific aesthetic that he sticks to, and that's okay. Then of course, directors would include Christopher Nolan, shocking I know, Tim Burton, Wong Kar-wai, Akira Kurosawa, Wes Anderson, Ben Stiller, Ron Howard, I would say. I don't know, there's lots of directors with amazing creative vision. It's really not needed for me to just sit here and list them out or something, but you know. And then resources, if you want to learn more about directors and directing, just go to Studio Binder, and No Film School. Okay, yeah, but I think that's it. I don't have anything else in my notes. I'm sure there are plenty of things that slip past me, like the day-to-day stuff, but I also purposefully did not include that. Once again, I'm sorry if I have a lisp at all. I know I do. So yeah. Anyways, like, subscribe, and goodbye.